Hello, my friends. Welcome back to StoryPath English. Please, find a comfortable place to sit. Imagine we are sitting together by a warm, glowing campfire. The stars are bright above us, and the air is soft and still. Today, I want to tell you a story about a girl who had no power, no money of her own, and no connection to the country she would one day rule. It is a story about a girl who was born a minor princess in a tiny corner of Germany, but who grew up to become one of the most powerful women in the history of the world. She was not born Russian. She did not speak the language. She was an outsider, a stranger in a cold, dangerous land. But she had something more important than a crown. She had a brilliant mind and a heart that refused to be defeated. This is the story of Sophie, the girl who became Catherine the Great, the Empress of all the Russias. Stay with me, and if you enjoy stories that show how the human spirit can conquer the impossible, please subscribe to hear more. Our story begins in 1729, in a small town in Germany called Stettin. A baby girl was born, and her parents named her Sophie. Her father was a minor prince, a soldier who was not very rich or very famous. Her mother was a difficult, ambitious woman who didn't think Sophie was very special. Sophie wasn't considered a great beauty. She wasn't the favorite child. While other princesses were being pampered, Sophie was often ignored. But Sophie didn't mind. She was a quiet girl who spent her time reading books. She watched the people around her. She learned how to be charming when she needed to be, and how to be silent when it was wise. She had a secret fire inside her. She felt that she was meant for something big, even if she didn't know what it was yet. Have you ever felt like you were waiting for your life to truly begin? Have you ever felt that you were capable of great things, even if the people around you didn't see it? That was Sophie. When Sophie was 14 years old, a letter arrived that changed everything. It was an invitation from the Empress of Russia, Elizabeth. The Empress was looking for a wife for her nephew, Peter, who was the heir to the Russian throne. Sophie and her mother were invited to come to the Russian court. It was a long, freezing journey across Europe in a wooden carriage. Sophie looked out at the endless snow and the dark forests. She was leaving everything she knew behind. She was going to a country where she knew no one and spoke not a word of the language. Most 1-4-year-olds would have been terrified. But Sophie was excited. She saw this as her one chance to escape a small, boring life. When she arrived in the grand palaces of St. Petersburg, she saw a world of incredible wealth. The walls were covered in gold, and the people wore silk and diamonds. But it was also a world of secrets and danger. The Empress Elizabeth was a powerful, frightening woman, and Peter, the boy Sophie was supposed to marry, was difficult. Peter was childish. He didn't like Russia. He only wanted to play with toy soldiers and listen to German music. He didn't care about Sophie. Sophie realized very quickly that if she wanted to survive in this palace, she had to do more than just be a wife. She had to become Russian. She began to study. She stayed up late into the night, sitting by a single candle, learning the difficult Russian language. She walked around her room barefoot on the cold stone floor, repeating Russian words over and over again, even when she became sick with a fever. She wanted the Russian people to see that she loved their country more than her own. She changed her religion. She changed her name. From that day on, she was no longer Sophie, the German princess. She was Catherine. Have you ever had to work so hard for something that it made you tired to your very bones? Catherine did. She knew that her mind was her only weapon. In 1745, Catherine and Peter were married. It was a grand celebration. But behind the scenes, it was a tragedy. Peter was often mean to her. He ignored her for years. Catherine was lonely. She lived in a palace full of thousands of people, but she had no real friends. For 18 long years, she lived in a bad marriage, under the watchful, suspicious eye of the Empress Elizabeth. But Catherine did not waste those 18 years. While Peter played with his toys, Catherine read. She read books about history, philosophy, and how to rule a country. She talked to the soldiers. She listened to the advisors. She learned the secrets of the palace. She became the most educated person in the Russian court. The people began to notice. They saw a prince who was weak and hated Russia, and they saw a princess who was wise, strong, and spoke their language perfectly. In 1762, the Empress Elizabeth died. Peter became the emperor, Peter III. It was a disaster. He immediately made peace with Russia's enemies. He insulted the Russian church. He told everyone he wanted to send Catherine away to a prison and marry another woman. Catherine knew that her life was in danger. She knew that Peter was going to destroy the country. She had to make a choice. Should she run away? Or should she fight for the throne? On a summer morning in 1762, Catherine made her move. She didn't wait for Peter to act. She woke up early, put on a Green Guards uniform, and climbed onto a magnificent white horse. She rode to the barracks where the soldiers were. She stood before them, a woman alone against an emperor. But the soldiers didn't see a woman. They saw their leader. They shouted her name. They followed her into the city. In just one day, without a single drop of blood being shed in the streets, Catherine took the throne. Peter was arrested. A few days later, he died in prison. No one knows exactly what happened, but Catherine was now the Empress of Russia. The German girl, who had arrived with nothing but a trunk of clothes, was now the most powerful person on the planet. For the next 34 years, Catherine ruled Russia. They called her Catherine the Great. She expanded the borders of the country. She built schools and hospitals. She was a friend to the greatest thinkers and writers of her time. She realized that Russia needed to be modern. When a terrible disease called smallpox was killing thousands of people, Catherine was the first person in Russia to be vaccinated. She wanted to show her people that they didn't have to be afraid of science. She was not perfect. She was a hard woman who made difficult choices. But she loved Russia with all her heart. She took a country that was old and struggling and turned it into a world power. The story of Catherine the Great teaches us that your beginning does not define your end. It doesn't matter if you are born in a small town or if people think you aren't special. What matters is your hunger to learn. What matters is your courage to take a chance when it appears. Catherine showed us that a girl with a book can be more powerful than a man with an army. She was an outsider who became the ultimate insider. She was a German who became the most Russian of all the rulers. She showed us that home is not just where you were born. Home is the place you choose to serve and protect. When you think of Catherine now, I hope you don't just think of the gold and the palaces. I hope you think of the 1-4-year-old girl in the back of a carriage, looking out at the snow and deciding that she was going to be great. I hope you think of the woman staying up all night to learn a new language so she could speak to the hearts of her people. Thank you for listening to this story. If it inspired you, please like this video and subscribe to StoryPath English. We have so many more stories to tell you. Stories of kings and queens, artists and explorers, and the many ways that people have changed the world. Tell me in the comments, if you could go back in time and ask Catherine one question, what would it be? Have you ever had to move to a new place and learn everything from the beginning? I love hearing your stories, my friends. Our campfire is burning low now. The logs are turning into soft, glowing embers. The night is quiet and beautiful. As you go to sleep tonight, remember the girl who turned a no from the world into a yes from history. Remember that your mind is your greatest strength. Don't be afraid to dream big, and don't be afraid to work for those dreams. Sleep well, and I will see you on our next journey down the story path. Good night.